follow. He will do one of two things. He will admit to everything, or he'll say he's just not the same, and you'll begin to wonder why you came. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness, and but I stayed up with you all night, and I know how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness, and but I stayed up with you all night, and I know how to save a life. How to save a life. How to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness, and but I stayed up with you all night, and I know how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness, and but I stayed up with you all night, and I know how to save a life. How to save a life. How to save a life. Long ago, just like a hearse, you died again and again. We are so far from you. Burning on, just like a match, just try to incinerate the lives of everyone you know. And what's the worst can take from everyone
Argument, you're 12 or 13, it's the mid-90s, and you're sitting across the table from your conservative aunt at a family reunion. This aunt will, a decade from now, become a tea partier. And you have, you sweet, innocent child, brought up the subject of evolution, being too young to know it's politicized. And your aunt has not taken well to it. She goes on one of her classic tirades, dismissing the very concept of evolution as patently ridiculous, dropping a quote that will stick with you for ages. You can't get snakes from chicken eggs. And you do your best to explain with your limited knowledge base that, yeah, you can only get a snake from a snake egg, but that snake is going to be a little different from its parents, and the next snake will be a little different from its parents, and you multiply that by a few million generations, and you might have something very different from that original snake. Maybe something with legs, or that can breathe underwater, or see better in the dark. And your aunt stares you dead in the eye and repeats, as if you hadn't said anything, you can't get snakes from chicken eggs. So this is an ego-saving maneuver in which a complex truth is rejected in favor of simplicity. Your aunt has a statement which is true, though non sequitur to the argument at hand, and after your explanation of how genetics work on long timelines, she repeats her original statement to herself, and it still feels true. It's the belief that the truth is easily recognized, and that it's always simple, because the world is simple, and if you can't explain it to me like I'm 5, then you're probably wrong or making things up. This heuristic is very hard to argue with. Like, you've heard the same aunt claim that the hole in the ozone layer is caused by sunspots. Now, we've talked about the mimetic power of statements that are short, quippy, and wrong, and this is a fine example. You might feel the correct response is a statement that is short, quippy, and correct. But here's the conundrum. The truth is, the hole in the ozone layer is caused by chlorofluorocarbons. Not only is that a more complex sentence, it's a more complex idea. If the ozone hole is caused by sunspots, then it's probably been happening for billions of years. It's not caused by humans, and we don't have to do anything about it. It's reassuring, and tells folks all they need to know without further questions. But the truth of how aerosols deplete ozone is more complex, not least because even without knowing the science of it, it implies there's a problem we should do something about. Ultraviolet light makes CFCs release chlorine into the stratosphere where it bonds with ozone, converting it into oxygen and chlorine monoxide, neither of which do what ozone does to protect us from the sun. There may be people who can explain that more simply than I just did, but there is a floor to how simple the truth can be and still be the truth. Falsehoods don't have that. There is no limit to how simple an idea can be when it doesn't have to conform to reality. You play the game of who's got the simplest argument, liars win every time. You can't get much simpler than sunspots. But if you can convince people that the world is complex, then simplistic explanations across the board become suspect. It might be too late to do that with your aunt, but maybe there's still hope for your cousins. If you're wondering what they do when confronted with something they cannot deny is complicated, well, you did that. You or someone like you took their simple world and overcomplicated it. All the conspiracy theories and finger-pointing and screenshots they'd squiggled MS Paint over, all of that is the story of how you overcomplicated the world. It fills in the gap between the simplicity of the world they believe in and the unambiguous complexity of the one in which we live. And yes, that story